Hi, and welcome to Series 2 of the Australia Academy Dern History Department podcast. This series is going to focus on the Weimar and Nazi Germany part of our topic, which is your paper 3 when it comes to the main exam. If you haven't listened to any of these podcasts before, the aim of these is to be about a 5-10 minute little podcast that's going to focus on one particular element of the Germany topic. It's not supposed to replace your main revision. It doesn't take place of your cue cards, your timelines, your brain dumps, whatever you're using to revise. This is just to give you that little bit of an injection, a little bit of extra bit of nugget of knowledge on these individual topics. If you've not checked out the other podcasts that I've got available, then check out Series 1, which focuses on medicine through time and the Western Front. Series 3, which focuses on early Elizabethan England, and Series 4, which focuses on the superpower relations, i.e. the Cold War. Okay, let's get started. Let's do a bit of Germany. So this is episode 3, and we'll focus on 1924 to 1929 in Germany and how they were able to recover from the horrific events of 1923 that I discussed in episode 2. Key point just to remember at this point is that Adolf Hitler is in prison for the first part of this, and therefore he's out of the picture. He's not getting involved, although he does claim that the new social side of Germany was not to his liking, and he would put things in place once he was in power that would rectify that and go back to the way it was. So this time period, these 5 years, 5-6 years, are referred to as the golden years or the recovery years. And ultimately, the question we need to ask at the end of this session is that an accurate name for it? Okay, did everybody actually experience a golden time, or is it just for some people? So there's going to be 6 events, things that I want to discuss in this podcast. So this one's going to be a little bit longer maybe than the others, and then ultimately we'll come back to that question as to whether it really was a golden age. So the first thing we'll discuss is a man, and this is Gustav Stresemann. Gustav Stresemann is going to be the saviour of the Weimar Republic in these years. So he's actually elected Chancellor in August 1923, but only serves until November 1923. Now he's also the Foreign Minister at this time as well, and he actually realises that as Foreign Minister he's got more clout, more ability to change things than he ever would do as the Chancellor. So he takes that sacrifice of moving himself away from that position to focus on what he could actually do to help Germany and achieve his aims. The first thing that he needed to do in his position was that he needed to sort out Germany's economy. As I mentioned in episode 2, Germany are going through something known as hyperinflation. The country is on its backside when it comes to the economy. No one's willing to trade with Germany. They're in a real tight situation. So he needs to do something. And what he does is actually quite simple. He simply scraps the mark, gets rid of the currency, says, right, we're not going to use this anymore. We're going to use a new currency called the Rentenmark. It's going to be a temporary currency until we can get ourselves back. It's going to be linked to the gold, price of gold. So if gold goes up, the currency will go up. If gold goes down, the currency will go down. So that makes it much more stable. It means it's not going to go all over the place like with the mark. It's going to be called the Rentenmark. And with this, hopefully, other nations will then start to trust Germany's economy and be willing to trade with them, and therefore more money is going to come in and out of the country, which is obviously going to help Germany's economy. Along with this, to help with the economy, Gustav Stresemann agrees something called the Dawes Act. So this is in 1924, and this is an economic deal with the USA. And the deal was quite, again, straightforward. It's a $200 million loan from America that Germany can invest in their industry and society, so rebuild their factories, build more houses, that sort of things like that. They also agreed that the reparation amount, that $6.6 billion that Germany had to pay thanks to the Treaty of Versailles, that would be reduced in the short term until Germany managed to get back on their feet, and then it would be reinstated back. So it just meant that Germany didn't have to pay as much back initially, so they had a chance to maybe just get back on their feet and really sort of get their economy bouncing again. The other thing that was agreed is that all foreign troops would then lead the Ruhr. So as I mentioned in episode 2, France and Belgium currently occupy the Ruhr, as Germany had faltered on their repayments. This deal meant that they would now leave, that the money would be paid to France and Belgium to get them out of the Ruhr, so that again Germany had access to those raw materials so they could rebuild their economy. There is more. There is another economic act, but I'm going to do this in chronological order, so we're going to move the economy to one side and we're going to go to foreign policy now. And in 1925, Stresemann signs the Locarno Pact. Now, this is it's not a major thing, but it plays quite a significant role. So these are 5 nations, so Britain, France, Belgium, Italy and Germany, all agree to the Locarno Pact. The first thing this does is it recognises the borders that were set aside, by the Treaty of Versailles. This just gives everybody that little bit of peace of mind that Germany are not going to try and take back Alsace-Lorraine. They're not going to try and take back the land that was given to Poland or to Denmark or to Belgium. So Germany officially recognised that, yeah, I get it. These are now our borders. The other thing is that if any of these nations come to any harm, any of these nations are invaded, then the other nations will step in and help them. So if, for example, Britain decided to invade Germany, then actually France, Belgium, Italy would be on Germany's side and would help to defend Germany. Now remember, Germany have only got an army of 100,000 men. They're in a position that's quite weak. They're in a position where they could be invaded. And so this gave Germany just a little bit of security. But again, it also gave France and Belgium that little bit of security that Germany are not going to try and attack them, because if they did, Britain and Italy would join on their side. So it just made everybody just feel a little bit more secure in their position within Europe. Because of this, in 1926, Germany are welcomed into the League of Nations. This was an organisation set up in 1919 by America to provide security, to make sure everyone felt at ease. But Germany were denied membership initially because they were still seen as the bad guys after World War I. So Germany are finally now allowed into the club in 1926. It shows that they're now accepted by the nations as not being the bad guys anymore. And it gives them more protection again from possible invasions from other nations as well. And then finally, the last Foreign Policy Act that was passed at this time is the Kellogg-Briand Pact. So this was 1928. There are over 50 countries that signed this. And essentially this is countries saying that, look, if we've got beef with each other, if there's a bit of an issue, rather than turning to our military strength to solve that problem, we're going to use words, we're going to use diplomacy, we're going to use the pen, if you like, rather than a gun. And again, it just increases trust, it increases security, both for Germany, but also for the other nations around Germany as well, that they've got that promise from each other. And then we return to the economy. As I mentioned a moment ago, there was another economic plan, and this was 1929, and this was the Young Plan. This is huge, okay? So again, another deal struck with America. And what this is going to do is, first of all, it's going to reduce the reparations. It's going to give them a 17% discount on their reparations. They no longer have to pay anywhere near as much as they did before. And it's also going to extend the payment period. So now Germany have got 59 years to pay back these reparations. That takes them to 1988. So by lengthening the time they've got to pay it back, it meant that the amount they were going to be paying each time was going to be greatly reduced. Again, just took that pressure off Germany. They don't have to find as much money each time to pay their reparations back. So again, just providing that little bit of security for the Germans. However, within 4 months of signing the Young Plan, disaster strikes in 2 ways. First of all, on the 3rd of October, Gustav Stresemann dies. So the big hero of the 1920s is no more. And then at the end of that month, on October the 29th, Wall Street crashes. So should this period be called the Golden Age? Well, a lot more money is now being spent on Germany through foreign trade. The people of Germany therefore start spending more money within Germany, so this is a massive boost to the German economy. Society starts to change as well, so things like casinos, theatres, nightclubs start opening up in the big cities. So if you've got money, your life is now going to improve massively for the better. You're going to have a much better quality of life. Women's lives change dramatically, so women become a lot more independent, wearing whatever outfits they want, wearing makeup, smoking, drinking, going out at night without needing a man on your arm. That independence from women they never had before in Germany suddenly becomes quite important. Things such as art, architecture, film. Germany suddenly have a massive surge in popularity on this and almost become world leaders, certainly in architecture. But many would argue that maybe it became second behind Hollywood in the film industry as well. However, it's not for everybody. If you're working class, or in fact if you live in the countryside, you've probably not seen a major change in your life. Unless you are rich and live in the cities, life is pretty much as it was. Nothing's really changed. And so when we do get the Nazis take over a few years after the Golden Age, for those people, nothing really changes. When Hitler takes away this aspect of life, you don't really notice it. So is Golden Age an appropriate name? Yes, if you were rich. Yes, if you lived in the cities. But no, if you didn't meet that criteria. You could also argue that actually, depending on when you're asking this question, so in 1928, most people would argue that yes, it was a golden age, life is great, Germany's amazing. You ask at the end of 1929, and all of a sudden, well, no, Wall Street's crashed. Germany are now facing a huge economic downturn. The depression is going to hit. And the irony was that Stresemann wasn't there to see it. And the big question is, would he have had a plan? If he was still alive when Wall Street crashed, was there a backup plan? Was there a plan B? Because essentially what most historians will argue is that Stresemann papered over the cracks. He didn't really solve a problem. He built it all on credit. And when another country's economy started to collapse, Germany then suffered as well. So it wasn't actually a recovery for Germany. It was based on somebody else's work. And when they lost that, and when their economy fell in the USA in 1929, Germany felt it possibly even more so than America. So that's it. That's episode 3 done and dusted. That is the golden years. Next episode we'll be reintroducing our friend Adolf Hitler into the mixing pot. If you've enjoyed this or you found it useful, then make sure you check out episodes 1 and 2 if you haven't already done so. There are also Series 3 on Elizabeth, Series 4 on the Cold War, and Series 1 looks at medicine. Keep that revision going, guys. We'll keep working hard. It all pays off at the end. Catch you later. Bye.